So time to kill seems to be one of the biggest discussions revolving around Warzone 2 at the moment because it is one of the biggest issues I think a lot of people are having with the game, and I really do hate the discourse around time to kill in Call of Duty, whether it's for multiplayer or Battle Royale. It's just so one-sided a lot of the time, like people kind of just pick one of the extremes, and at the end of the day, it is all preference, right? It's all based on preferences, and I think we need to all understand that there is not one way that is the definitive best way. It's really, what do you prefer? Do you prefer to have a slower paced game, or do you prefer to have a faster paced game? Or also, when it comes to skill gap, do you prefer there to be a higher skill gap or a lower skill gap? That is what time to kill mainly affects, at least in my perspective. So I see it as, if you want the faster time to kill, chances are you want the game to be a bit slower, you want the game to be more tactical. And if you want the time to kill to be slower, chances are you want the game to be a bit faster paced with more like arcadey elements to it, as opposed to being more tactical. That's where I mainly see the time to kill affecting the gameplay mostly, but also when it comes to skill gap, I do think slower time to kills will increase the skill gap, which a lot of people like that, a lot of people also don't like that. Now obviously you know where I stand when it comes to time to kill in respawn modes in multiplayer especially. I really prefer a slower time to kill, but when it comes to non-respawn modes, I don't really mind as much. I'm kind of okay with the time to kill being faster, hence why I think Search and Destroy in the fast time to kill Call of Duties is always pretty fun. Like, it's never bad. I still love Search and Destroy and slower time to kill CODs as well, but I don't mind it in the fast ones. Whereas the respawn modes in fast time to kill Call of Duties I tend to not really enjoy too much, like Domination, Hardpoint. They're just not very enjoyable. They don't have the same gameplay flow that they do in like a slower time to kill Call of Duty game. So Warzone sits in that position where I'm not really like that angry with the time to kill being a bit faster. Now, do I think it should be faster? No, I'm not saying I think it should be. I just don't mind it as much as I would in a respawn mode in multiplayer. But speaking of my experience so far with Warzone 2, the time to kill does feel a little bit too fast. And obviously when you compare it to Warzone 1, it's like insanely fast. Now, I think when Warzone first released, it's probably kind of similar to how it was when Warzone first released, but Warzone over time did increase the time to kill just to see how it would work, and I really loved those changes. I think Warzone was at a really good spot with the time to kill, especially in Vanguard's lifecycle. Now, Vanguard's lifecycle had so many other issues with Warzone that kind of destroyed Warzone for a while, and many people just weren't really playing it, but it was not the time to kill. I don't think that was the issue. I actually prefer how the game played with that. And another big thing I wanted to mention is I do think it is going to affect the resurgence modes more than anything, which is how I felt in Warzone 1 as well. Like, I really think the slower time to kill made Rebirth and Fortune's Keep way more enjoyable. Like, those were just such great experiences during Vanguard's lifecycle because they fit so well with that slower time to kill. Now, like I said, for bigger maps, for Verdansk, Caldera, and now with Al Mazrah, I don't think the fast time to kill is terrible, especially because it's not a respawn mode. Obviously, you can technically respawn with the Gulag, but you know what I mean. Like, it's not a consistent, like, people spawning in every couple minutes or every couple seconds in the case of multiplayer. So it's not as big of a deal to me, and I'm okay with it being a little bit slower and a little more tactical because it is a battle royale at the end of the day. But with that being said, would I prefer it was faster paced? Would I prefer the time to kill was slower so people are moving around more, not camping as much, and so there's a bigger skill gap? Yes, of course I would prefer that. But the problem is, just like for multiplayer, there's a ton of casual players out there, and there's a ton of bad players out there who just won't be able to enjoy the game as much because the skill gap would be a lot higher if they were to make the time to kill a lot slower. And there's also a lot of players who aren't even bad, and they just like that. They just like having that more realistic tactical feeling. They might be really good at the game, but they just prefer it being slower paced or whatever it may be, and that's fine. You can have that opinion, you can have that perspective. I'm not shaming you for having that at all. But the problem is, how do we make both sides happy? Well, personally, I don't think there is that big of a problem with this. It's not that complicated. I think the simple thing you can do is to just make another mode. Now, I know they don't want a million different playlists in their game, I get it, but time to kill is such an important factor to the overall gameplay loop of a Call of Duty experience, to the point where it would really be worth it to have multiple modes. And I've said this for multiplayer, they should do this for Battle Royale as well. Like, why not have the same, solos, duos, trios, and quads, but in another mode, another playlist, and you can call it, like, I don't know, I think they called it Iron Trials or something when they first were testing out the slower time to kill in Warzone. They also had other changes, and it was supposed to be like the competitive Warzone mode or whatever. But I don't really care what they name it. Just have the available option to do that. And yeah, you're going to get the more try-hardy type people in there because obviously the skill gap being higher, they're going to prefer to play that mode. But at least it would give us a chance to play a mode that just works better for the gameplay, right? It makes it faster paced. People aren't camping as much because yeah, it is kind of frustrating to play a battle royale. You're looting, you're doing all this stuff. You're maybe spending like 15 plus minutes in the game just looking around. You can't really find anyone. You're kind of getting annoyed because everyone's camping, so it's really hard to find people. And then the second you do end up coming across someone, they come across you first, so they like sneak up behind you. And it's not like that skillful to sneak up behind someone. I don't know why people are acting like it's the most skillful thing in the world to be able to get behind someone. Like it's not that hard. You can literally just be camping behind a corner, and then someone just walks past that corner because they're not checking every single corner they come across, and then they get shot at from behind, and then they get the kill pretty easily. And it's just not fun to have that experience where you get shot from behind and you just insta die because there's just nothing you could have done because there's no health, right? There's no health to make up for any sort of reaction time or any sort of gunfight situation you could get in. So yes, I would prefer the time to kill to be slower. I think a lot of people are in greens, but like I said, they could also just do other modes. They could do other modes, and they could do that multiplayer as well. I mean, they have hardcore. They have a mode where the time to kill is faster, even faster than what it already is. So why not do one where the time to kill is slower? Like, to me, that's just common sense. I don't know. They did that for Vanguard recently, or I guess not recently. It was like almost 2 months ago now, but they had a mode called Overclocked in Vanguard, and it was some of the most fun I had in Vanguard in a long time. Actually, it was the most fun I ever had in Vanguard. It was the most fun I had in a non-Treyarch Call of Duty since probably Infinite Warfare. So that's really saying something because there's been a lot of non-Treyarch Call of Duties past few years, and I had an absolutely amazing time just because the time to kill was slower. So I do think if they were to make this change in Warzone, it would fix one of my biggest problems with Warzone currently. Obviously, there's other issues that need to be addressed as well. I think there's definitely a problem with the gulag, and we talked about it in my first impressions review as well, but there's a couple other small things that I think definitely could be changed around. I think the map can definitely use a couple updates, but obviously we're going to get map updates as the year goes along, so that's all well and good. And there was another problem I noticed today while playing more Warzone 2 that I didn't talk about in my first impressions review, and that is the fact that we have this unequal system with armor plates. So in Warzone 1, you just automatically could put 3 plates in at once, and everyone was just like that. Or you could hold 5, and then you could also hold 8 if you get the like special armor plate satchel thing. But in this game, you actually start with only being able to put 2 in at once, and if you want a third one, you have to get the special armor plate vest thing in order to put a third one in. Now, I don't like this because you have a situation of if you don't find one of those, you are at a disadvantage automatically. Like, at least in Warzone 1, armor plates are very common, so it's not like you're going to have many situations where you're at a disadvantage for not having any armor plates, and if anything, it just motivates you to rush more so you can go find more armor plates, whether that's killing enemies or just finding them from the ground or from loot or whatever. But in this one, regardless of how many armor plates you have on you, you can only put 2 in unless you find that vest. The vest is very common to find, but if you don't find it, you are now at a disadvantage. And I just don't like that. I don't think that's a good system. I definitely think they should just make it so you automatically have 3 at once and don't have any special armor plate thing that lets you get more. It was one of the issues I had with Blackout as well. They had different levels of armor, and I don't like that. Everyone should have the same thing, and you could just put in the armor plates as you go along. You have to just find more and place them in. It's as simple as that. I think it was perfect in the first Warzone. They should definitely do the same thing, or at least something similar. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts about the time to kill in Warzone 2.0. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Give me your thoughts in the comments. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.